This is a review for everything we covered in the first week in our Parts of Speech unit, which included reviewing simple sentence patterns, classifying nouns and verbs, and recognizing prepositional phrases. The first type of sentence we looked at was a sentence that is comprised of a subject and an action verb that is intransitive, meaning it does not take an object or need an object, such as bunnies hop, frogs jump, or trees grow. Notice these verb types can change depending on context. For example, if I said frogs jump the fence, it's no longer intransitive. Or if I said trees grow tall, it's no longer an intransitive action verb. It becomes a linking verb. The next type of sentence we looked at was a subject, action verb, object. Because these action verbs take an object, they are considered transitive action verbs, such as the pitcher throws the ball, Pat ate steak, Beatrice loves Ben. So ball, Ben, and steak were the objects here. Notice they answer the question what the pitcher threw, or what Pat ate, or who Beatrice loves. But they're a noun that comes after the verb, functioning as the direct object of that verb. Some sentences will actually be fragments if they don't have an object, because some verbs need an object. Other verbs, take it or leave it. For example, if you crossed off steak, Pat ate already is a sentence. Doesn't need the object, but in this context, if you include steak, ate becomes a transitive action verb. The third type of sentence we looked at is one with a subject, linking verb, and complement. So for example, the sun is a sphere, the food looks delicious, time is elusive. Notice in this first one, we have a noun as the complement, and in these next two, delicious and elusive, we have adjectives. Common linking verbs include forms of the verb to be, like is. They can also include the five senses or some other states, which we'll look at a little bit later. So simple subject of a sentence is the noun, or person, place, thing, or idea, that the sentence is mainly about. It's who or what completes the action of the verb, if there is one. And we don't include all the modifiers that might be attached to it. So for example, in our family traveled through Africa last summer, just family is the simple subject. In unfortunately, the ancient vehicle lacked good shock absorbers, just vehicle is the simple subject. The and ancient modify vehicle in the same way that the possessive pronoun our modifies family, but they're not part of the simple subject. Two more examples. A zebra herd cautiously passed the sleeping lions. And here we even have a noun, zebra, that is describing what type of herd. But the simple subject is just herd. In the next example, the city's post office was closed for the holiday. And here things work a little bit different, because post office is typically considered a compound noun. These two words are used together frequently enough that collectively a post office is one thing. Zebra herd, probably not as common of a pairing. You could have a buffalo herd or a deer herd or any number of other herds. So zebra there is functioning as an adjective, even though it's technically a noun. Also worth noting, city can be a noun, but as soon as you put an apostrophe s, like this, it becomes a possessive noun, which tells you about the post office. So it's functioning as an adjective. So let's go ahead and classify all the nouns in these sentences. In our first one here, we have Billy, apostrophe s, which serves as a possessive noun because it functions like an adjective. It's not the simple subject. The simple subject would be car. Thoughtfulness is always appreciated. Thoughtfulness is the subject of that sentence. It is an abstract noun. All nouns are either concrete or abstract. Concrete nouns are tangible. They physically exist. They can be interacted with using one of the five senses. Whereas abstract nouns are qualities, ideas, characteristics, maybe events. They do not physically exist. Uncle Rico will provide the recipe. Uncle Rico is a proper noun since we are referring to a specific person, we capitalize the beginnings of those words, and just like a compound noun, altogether it is one noun. It's also the subject of this sentence, and here we see that recipe is the object of the verb. So if you ask yourself the question, what will Uncle Rico provide? Well, it's the recipe. My boss reads the newspaper. My is a possessive pronoun here, so it's not a noun, it's a pronoun. And it's also functioning like an adjective to describe boss, which is the subject here. My boss reads could be the sentence, but here we're reading something specific. So newspaper is the object of that verb. It's what your boss reads. Last example, misery is a cold drink on a wintry day. Misery is an abstract noun here. Think emotions are abstract nouns. And it's also the subject of this sentence, which is using a linking verb. So that's why drink is the complement. Misery and drink are being linked together using this word is. Also, there's another noun in this sentence, and that is day. And day is the object of the preposition on. More on that in just a few minutes. But first, let's talk about verbs. There are three main types of verbs. Action, which can be transitive or intransitive, meaning it requires an object or no object. Verbs can also be linking, and they can be helping. And another word for a helping verb is an auxiliary verb. Those two words are synonymous. So first up, the action verbs. Transitive action verbs take on an object, such as the boy dribbled the ball down the court. I studied my notes for tomorrow's history test. In each case here we have a noun, ball, or notes, that is directly linked to that verb. It answers the question what you dribble or what you study. And in some cases it could answer the question who. In the intransitive examples, the verb does not take on an object. The boy dribbled, but there's no noun after that telling us what the boy dribbled. And in the second example, after I studied, we have several phrases. We have this adverbial phrase, all night, which tells us how we studied or when we studied. And we have this prepositional phrase, for tomorrow's history test. But neither one of those is a noun that answers the question of what you studied. Here's a table of some of the possible linking verbs. These are forms of the verb to be, such as am, is, are, was, and were. States of being, such as appear, become, growing or turning, staying, remaining, or seeming. And one of the five senses. This is not an exhaustive list, but some of the more common ones. That being said, these are not always linking verbs. The type of verb depends on the context. You could say Johnny feels sad. And here, feels links a description to a subject. That's a linking verb. But you could also say Johnny feels the carpet. And here, feels is an action that requires an object. So it's a transitive action. So what do you look for? Linking verbs have subject complements. And that's always going to be an adjective, noun, or a pronoun that describes the subject. So Johnny is happy. Johnny is an enigma. Johnny is mine. Is one of the more common linking verbs. But we could replace that with any of the ones from the table above. And here we have adjective, noun, and pronoun. Finally, helping verbs. These are always attached to a main verb. And they help express time and meaning. So if you consider a verb run, we can identify I run in the present, I ran in the past, and I will run in the future. But if we combine some of these helping verbs, we can figure out a little bit more information about time and meaning. So if you said, they have been running, for example, that has a different meaning. Or they will have been running, or they had run, or they were running. The verb form run often changes with these helping verbs into different forms of the verb, like the past participle. Here's another list of helping verbs that help express possibility or necessity. So the first list was those that help express time or meaning. These are about possibility or necessity. So you could say, let's say we're talking about brushing your teeth. I could brush my teeth. I might brush my teeth. I ought to brush my teeth. I should brush my teeth. I will brush my teeth. Brush is our main verb, and all of these come in front of it as part of the whole verb phrase. So let's consider 3 of our original sentence examples from earlier in the video. Bunnies hop, hop being an intransitive action verb. Pat ate steak, ate being a transitive action verb. And the sun is a sphere, is working as a linking verb here. I can put helping verbs in front of all of those. Bunnies can hop. Pat will eat steak. Then the sun shall always be a sphere. And notice I have clarified the meaning, the time, or the necessity or possibility. Notice that be is a new form. It was is. Why does that change? Well, there's more than 3 tenses to a verb. There's actually 12 of them. Also notice there are adverbs that sometimes get stuck in the middle of a helping verb and a main verb. They are not part of the verb phrase. So though we are primarily concerned with identifying the 3 main types of verbs, action, linking, and helping, and distinguishing between action verbs that are transitive and intransitive, here's an overview of how some of these different tenses of verbs are built. There's more than just the simple past, present, and future. In progressive tense verbs, which are ongoing or repeated actions, we say things like he was eating, or he is eating, or he will be eating. In perfect tense verbs, which are typically already completed or may still be ongoing, we say things like had eaten, or has eaten, or will have eaten. Notice we're using the participle eaten. And then we can combine both of those, the perfect and progressive tenses, with had been eating, has been eating, or will have been eating. We will not be quizzed on distinguishing between these 12 tenses exactly, but we will use and recognize helping verbs, and here's an overview. Next up, let's look at the simple predicate of a sentence. Our family traveled through Africa last summer. Traveled is the simple predicate. All the phrases that might be attached to the verb that would make up the complete predicate, we are not looking at, just the main verb and any helping verbs that go along with it. So here it's traveled, which is intransitive. Second example, unfortunately the ancient vehicle lacked good shock absorbers. Lacked is transitive, as absorbers answers the question of what they lacked. My favorite dessert is lemon sherbet, despite many people pronouncing it sherbet. Is working as a linking verb here. The city's post office was closed for the holiday. Notice the simple predicate is both was and closed. So it includes was, the helping verb, and closed, the intransitive action verb. So let's practice a few examples of classifying verbs. Our cows have often provided enough milk for the entire village. Have provided is my simple predicate, often being an adverb, so I ignore it. Have is a helping verb, and provided is a transitive action verb. Milk is the object of that verb. Alan seems an honest boy. Seems is my simple predicate. It is a linking verb, connecting Alan and boy. The Senate has voted yesterday. Has voted is my simple predicate, has being a helping verb, and voted being an intransitive action verb. Yesterday is not an object, it is an adverb telling us when the Senate has voted. My pony will easily jump the fence today. Will jump is my simple predicate. Easily is an adverb that we ignore. Will is a helping verb, and jump is a transitive action verb, because fence is the object of that verb. The cockroach must die is my simple predicate. Must is a helping verb, and die is an intransitive action verb. Here's a list of common prepositions. About, by, in, from, under, up, of, and so on and so forth. These will come up all year long, and you have to be able to recognize them to put your commas in the right places, to conjugate your verbs correctly to match your subjects, all kinds of different uses. Prepositional phrases can modify nouns. For example, the pitcher on the mound throws the ball. On the mound is a prepositional phrase, and notice that mound is the object of the preposition, and ball is the object of the verb. Prepositional phrases can also modify verbs. Bunnies hop in the field. In the field is my prepositional phrase. Field is the object of the preposition. This verb doesn't have an object. It's intransitive. Nouns in prepositional phrases are never the subject of a sentence. And this will matter particularly later in the year when we do subject-verb agreement. But in the sentence, the bark of some trees is brown. Bark is the subject, not trees. In a similar way, nouns in prepositional phrases are never the object of a verb. I eat cereal in the morning. Cereal is the object of the verb. Morning is the object of the preposition in. I jumped between the hurdles. The verb jumped does not take an object, and hurdles is an object of the preposition between. So jumped would be an intransitive action verb, even though we see the noun hurdles there, because hurdles is the object of a preposition. One final distinction: Penelope decorated cupcakes. Since cupcakes is a noun, that's the object of the verb, and decorated is a transitive verb. Penelope decorated in the morning. Since in the morning is a prepositional phrase, morning is the object of the preposition, which makes decorated intransitive. So let's classify all the nouns in these sentences in blue and all the verbs in red. John's favorite chef, that's the subject of this sentence, shared a prized recipe. That's the object of the verb. Shared is a transitive action verb. The frozen pipes burst after an especially cold day. Pipes is the subject of this sentence. Day is the object of this preposition. After. Burst is the intransitive action verb that does not take an object. Sharks, that's the subject, are notorious predators. That's the complement of the subject. Is a linking verb. If I asked you what was the object of the verb, there isn't one, but there is a complement. Action verbs take objects, linking verbs take complements. My irascible hedgehog, subject, sneezed on the mulberry bush, object of the preposition. Sneezed, intransitive action verb. The kitten did not seem guilty of the crime. Kitten is the subject. Crime is the object of the preposition. Guilty is a complement, but here it is an adjective, so we don't need to underline it as a noun. Did seem is my simple predicate. Not is an adverb, so that's not underlined. Did is a helping verb. Seem is a linking verb. Your dog, subject, has always wagged his tail, object of the verb. At the strangest times. Times is an object of the preposition. Has wagged is my simple predicate, a helping verb and a transitive action verb. Always is not part of the simple predicate, it is an adverb. Concrete versus abstract. Democracy is not concrete. A desk is not abstract. A donut is not abstract. But warmth is, and fire is concrete. Wisdom is not concrete. Ice is not abstract. An eraser is not abstract. but winter is abstract and a shovel is concrete. Intelligence is not concrete. A planet is not abstract. And light is not abstract. Justice is, though, and popcorn is concrete.